Tamarind,
Edward,
welcome back to the podcast.
thanks. It's good to be back.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you. I just got back from holiday, feeling refreshed, feeling recharged, feeling ready to go. How are you feeling?
Where did you go?
I went to Bangkok for a couple of days, and then I went to Phuket, just on a little gals trip. One of my really close friends here is leaving Hong Kong, so we are taking off a few things on our bucket list of things to do, and travel was one of them, and eating is another, and we managed to do both.
I feel like you've had quite a few little trips away. This has become something you've spoken about on your social media.
Yeah.
It's something you've realized you want to create more time in your life for, something you really value and it really aligns with who you are and what you believe in and what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
Where's that all come from?
I think by nature, I am someone who tends to work quite hard, and I know that I can sometimes kind of get enveloped in what I'm doing and forget about everything else around me, and obviously then work to a point of getting burnt out or not feeling so great. And I think I've, over the years, not that I'm nailing it all the time, but I've started to become a little bit more proactive in trying to allow myself more time to myself, and realizing in those moments that I can still be as productive, if not more productive, by taking a step back and filling my own cup before I pour into others.
Nice. What the first thing I thought about there straight away was, I think that's how a lot of the world operate, right? It's like it's periods of a lot of intensity and then periods of breaks or rest and regeneration, which allows you to come back to the intensity. So I guess another option could be don't work as intensely and then not have to take the breaks as much.
That's very true.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's both. I think it's moderation in both areas. I think that a lot of what I guess I was going through was I was waiting almost for like the right time to travel. Like sometimes in our industry, I kind of feel bad for taking time off because we're in the service industry and we're helping people, and you don't want to step away from that because you want them to continue having success. And I think that, you can have the balance of both. I think, it's all about fulfilling things that you value. And as a person, I value my own space and my own time, and I value travel. Like, it is something that is an innate part of me that just makes me feel so invigorated and so great. And it doesn't feel like it's an escape anymore. It's not the point of which it's now the escape from what I'm doing. It's I'm purposefully putting this in here to just have some time and come back. And it's not like things changed either way. Does that make sense?
Well, can you explain the whole it's not an escape anymore?
Yeah. I think I used to take holidays when I waited to the point where I absolutely needed it. I had reached the point of being burnt out and feeling really bad in myself or in my work or whatever it might have been. I was just operating on a level that was not normal for myself. And it was out of necessity. Whereas now this approach, I feel, is a little bit more proactive, where I am periodically putting in or implementing places in my year where I'm like, I'm purposefully taking breaks at these points because I want to. And then I know I've set aside time for myself, which is really important.
I can't help but bring it back to training, obviously. But it's the whole same concept as a planned deload versus a forced deload.
Yes.
Right? So the forced deload is where you don't forecast a break from your training. You're just going harder and harder and more intense every session until you get to a point where you realize you can't go any harder, you're burnt out, you plateau with your training, you start picking up injuries. And that's where we're forced to take a break to be able to resume progress again.
For sure.
Versus like a planned deload is where, you're committing to a 4, 8, 12-week training cycle. And at the end of this, you're going to have some time off to repair and regenerate, and then you get back to it. So you've kind of now gone from living a life based around forced deloads to now basically creating some planning and structure in your life. Yeah,
absolutely. And it feels way better to do it the other way. I think that's what I had learnt on my trip back home for December, like Christmas period. I was like, oh, this is what I could feel like all the time if I planned it smartly, right? So I think that's kind of where this has come from.
I think where I am is that I totally understand the validity and I love the way that you're doing it. And every time I take a holiday, I realized that it is more like it feels a lot more like a forced deload. It was like, okay, I'm now on the way. I'm now realizing how much I needed to be away. And obviously the last 3 years has skewed this a little bit for sure, because we couldn't really get away. But still, like, I have this tendency just to stay here and like grit and grunt and graft.
Yeah.
And then I go away, then I'm like, oh, I actually probably needed this like 2-3 months ago. So I really want to adopt what you're doing, and I see you doing it, and I actually have a lot of admiration for the way that you're like, you plan around public holidays, you've like nailed this in your schedule. I'm sure like there are feelings of guilt, especially like the way that our team is. Like everyone works really hard all the time. People don't take breaks. Sometimes being the one taking breaks, you feel like maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I might let this team down. But I actually fully admire the fact that you're doing it, and and you communicated to all of us around you, the important people in your life, that this is what I need to allow me to be a high-performing coach and a high-performing athlete. And when you communicate that clearly and openly, you then get the support from the people around you.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been the communication, and it's also been the planning, right? Like if you can plan ahead, like I have people for my clients, I've set them up in ways in which I know that they have a contact point. They have all their programming. Any of my nutrition clients, we've arranged their check-ins at times, because it's not like I do nothing on my holiday. It depends how long it is, but I switched off entirely for like 4 or 5 days, which I don't think I've ever done in my career, which is crazy. But I knew going into that I didn't feel stressed or worried or guilty, because I had already been like, okay, I communicated, like you said, to everyone close to me, all my clients and everything. I had already gone through the phase this year of now having a business number as opposed to just having my personal number be my contact point. So it's just separated work and play a lot more. And for me, that's just been literally like a weight lifted off my shoulders, because I think I felt an obligation to always be there. And that's not from anyone else except for myself. It's something that I expected of myself. So
Can I ask how's it been since creating this work number and your personal number? Can you just explain what you did there?
Yes, absolutely. So prior to this, what I had was just my personal WhatsApp number, and that was what got distributed to my PT clients. It's what got distributed to any of my nutrition clients, any fundamentals or new people coming through. And then at Coastal, or in the process, we have a lot of business groups as well, you know, whether it's like the affiliates or the Coastal coaches or the mentors, or, you know, the list is kind of extensive. And there was just, honestly, hundreds of messages a day coming through, and it was quite hard to filter through that and have my personal things on the same thing. And then I think as a coach, like by nature, I feel like good coaches at least are very personable, and they build client rapport and they build relationship, and those relationships, not to say they blur the line of like friendship and professional, because I think that you can have that, but they do start to cross a little. And I think sometimes maybe because I wasn't strong enough with my boundaries, or because people felt like, oh, I'm the only person doing this, so it's fine. Whereas in reality, if I have like 50 to 100 people doing that same thing, like it's overwhelming for me. It allowed me to just draw the line and be like, this is my business contact, and when I'm ready, I will get back to you, kind of thing. And I can have set hours. I can tell them like reasonable times in which I'll get back that makes sense for them. And I think honestly, it's been an incredible change for me, because it's now allowed me to be like, okay, I'm going onto my WhatsApp, and this is my business WhatsApp. Like I'm working right now. And then when I'm home and I want to only have my personal things, I can. Does that make sense?
Well, my next question was going to be like, how has it been? Like, you know, how has this actually played out in your life, and has it been a good move?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a great move. So far, so good. Obviously, it's really early days. It's only been, like a month or less than a month now. But so far, it's been incredible because of the distinct difference in the way that people message me that are clients specifically. Now that they've seen, oh, she's made a purposeful effort to make this a business account, they're much more respectful in a way of my time. And I guess the contact, although we still get the same out of it, doesn't have to be as frequent. And I think it's helped with that. And then for me personally, it's like, it allows me at the end of the day to know that, okay, I've already set my time of wanting to be done with work now. I won't open the business WhatsApp until the next day. So it's also being strong within myself, right? Like it's very easy to have it on the phone and just treat it the same as before, and it really hasn't changed anything, but I've been trying really hard to make it different.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people listening to this, especially coaches, might be hearing this and thinking, wow, that's a really great idea. And that could help create some boundaries in my life, because you're right. We are in the people industry, we are in a service industry, and we often develop pretty close relationships with people we work with. Yeah. And, you know, there become some very blurred lines between friendship and professional. Sometimes those lines disappear altogether, but I do think, you know, especially people who are perhaps like, you know, more givers, can sometimes abandon themselves a bit in the pursuit of trying to make others happy.
Yeah.
So what are your boundaries? Like, so tell us what are the time cutoffs for work, and when does personal start? Because does that mean, when you're in work, you're then operating on your work phone. Does that mean personal phone is not operating during those times? Is it one or the other?
Predominantly, yes. So if I've allocated, let's just say I'm doing content creation for my courses that I'm doing, or creating my videos and things like that, I won't have my personal on me at all. Number one, I know that no one's going to need to contact me.
That helps.
Yeah. But yeah, it would only be my work phone. And in those moments, because it's not designated to clients, it would only be if you or Izzy or like something in a managerial position kind of contacted me. If it's different times, I've allocated different times for different clients, because I have clients from overseas as well. So it's like, this is your window if you live in the US or Canada, and this is your window if you live in somewhere like Australia or Hong Kong, right? So then it gives me times of the day where I'm not contactable at all, times of the day where I know I'm going to be online speaking to those people from those different countries, and then time to do my own stuff as well.
Nice. I like it. I mean, I don't know if I'm ready to make that step, because I feel, just thinking about it,
Stress.
I think the idea of like having two already stresses me out a little bit. But I think I do quite a good job of, I anything that's client related, I basically do it all through our coaching software. So unless it's an absolute emergency, they can call me. They can always message me on WhatsApp. But I'm pretty diligent with, like, I don't check my phone within an hour of waking every morning, which means I'm not really checking in on my messages until 6:45, and then I'm offline at 7:45. And I've been pretty to the book with those two things for the last 3-4 years. So I think the habit has been cultivated there, and I quite like it. And to be honest, because most of my day I'm in meetings or coaching or doing something active, I'm really not on my phone very much at all. So
you don't need them because you don't look at them anyway.
Yeah,
it's literally what I'm hearing.
That's Tammy. Scroll past that one. Oh, Tammy again. Scroll past that one.
she keeps messaging.
I'll see her in a few days. I'll speak to her in person. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And hats off to you for doing it. And it's cool to see it's working as well.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure. I was quite apprehensive when I started. I was like, I might just be creating two numbers and then doing the same thing. But so far so good.
There you go.
Happy with it.
Okay, so something you mentioned in that ramble was challenges.
Yes.
And that's what I want to speak to you about today.
Sure.
Because we are underway. We've just started your first challenge of the year.
Yep.
Which is the 30-day healthy eating challenge. But we have a lot of other challenges coming up.
Yeah.
You can give us a quick 101. What do we have coming up?
Yeah. So at the moment we're running what Ed had said, the 30-day healthy eating habits challenge. And then upcoming, although we've used the term challenge, not necessarily all of them are going to be run as challenges, but think of them as like educational courses where essentially what I'm doing is breaking down complicated science and making it very digestible for your average folks so that people can feel educated and prepped to make decisions for themselves with nutrition. I think a lot of what we do here is we try to impact as many lives as we can and create positive change. And I know that for me as a coach, that's something I'm very passionate about and want to help with. So that is, pretty much what we're doing. Other than that, we have a few other things in the pipeline, but they are still brainstorming ideas rather than actual solid things at the moment.
So what does challenge mean?
Yeah. That's a great question. What does challenge mean, Ed? That is a very good question. So I guess the first one was the name that we had rolled with at the time because it was 30 days. It was a challenge. It was a way for people to, I guess people are used to that language, but our challenge is not your average challenge. And I think that's kind of where I probably wanted to go with this is like, I am not expecting rainbows and butterflies from people within the 30 days. What I'm doing is equipping them with education and tools that will help them for a lifetime. So I guess that's what my idea of challenge is. It's like turning knowing into doing. And
so what is the format? Like you start the challenge, what's happening every day?
Yeah, absolutely. So within the challenge that we're running at the moment, what happens is we use the same software as we do for our programming. So people will be on their WhatsApp account and then it's dated, right? So 1st of May, for example, they'd be able to see their programmed workout of the day or programmed segment of the day. every single day has an educational video of this lovely voice behind it. And then
bloody good videos, by the way.
Graphics,
animations,
yeah,
all sorts of cool stuff.
Graphics and animations. I think that the reason I had gone with that is it's the way I learn. I like visuals, and I like cartoony type things, and I like things that flow around and kind of move with the words. So that was exactly the path that I took when I was creating this, and it's been super fun.
And by the way, everyone who's doing the challenge right now, you did all of these.
Yes.
Like, you created. I was actually blown away.
Yeah.
That you had the skill set and the creativity to do it. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun. I think as a person, I'm quite arty and quite creative naturally, and it's been really great to be able to capitalize, I guess, on a few of my skills, education and creativity, and bring it all together. It's definitely been a great passion project to work on and something I'm very proud of. So yeah, people would open up their lesson plan. They'd have my voice in the background. They'd have their video running, and they will learn about something, right? And over the 30 days, it is not only just educational topics of healthy eating habits necessarily, it is a problem solving course as well. So throughout the challenge, people get to discover things like the 5 whys exercise, understanding or getting to the bottom of why they're doing something. And then all of those problem solving things that I'm teaching them, things like abandoning the all or nothing approach, creating their own dials, all these different things are applicable to other areas of their life. So it is not only going to teach people how to equip themselves for their nutrition journeys, but it might be their career, their ability to be a parent, their studies, their whatever. It's just how to set yourself up for success in life in the face of obstacle, which we know is inevitable, and be able to work through no matter what.
Why did you take this route?
Yes.
Because, when I think most challenges, when most people hear the words like nutrition challenge, they're going to think weight loss, shred, how lean can you get in 30 days, there's going to be a winner. Why go down the habits route?
So I guess with the change of roles and the things that we had been given, the opportunities we had been given, it was quite daunting. Like, hey, you have the role of nutrition and lifestyle, do with it what you may, and good luck.
Basically how
it's like, okay, well, we nail people's hour in the gym, but I've got to now focus on the 23 other hours of that person's day. It's a lot.
And I want to just pause you there, because that's exactly where we were at as a business. We'd focused and gotten really, really good at the coaching and the training part. So for, like you said, for that hour when people come in, I think we were delivering a very high product. And then we all kind of just realized as a team, like, there is so much more that we could be doing. And we have the skill set amongst us, and you have a particular skill set and a particular interest, because you've gone very deep into the subject and the topic. But we're not doing people the service that we know we can.
Exactly.
So, we were constantly being maybe a bit frustrated that, we were writing great programs, educating people on how to get the most out of the programs, coaching and delivering them at a high level of quality. But because people weren't looking after the 23 hours in a day, people were coming in broken, injured, burnt out, fatigue, poor levels of self-awareness, probably not having the best nutritional protocols and habits. And so, at the change around, the turnaround, when we created fixed salaries and we gave people the opportunity to do things they really loved and they were good at, we went to you straight away and said, we need to step up our nutrition game. We know that there are plenty of nutritionists in the world who are prescribing one-on-one, they're doing one-on-one nutrition, macronutrients, and writing an individualized plan, which you were already doing some of, but you were already totally booked out. You didn't have any space for anyone else. So, how can we create something like we have in our Live, Perform, Compete in our build programs, and, reach a wider audience? We're not trying to compete with the one-on-one nutritionists of the world, because there's millions of those out there already, and we can all probably do a decent job of that already, but we want to speak and help more people. So that's kind of the backstory of where we were at as a company. And then, sorry, please continue.
You're fine. I think I've forgotten what your question was to me.
Me too. No, so my question was going back to like the early inception of this idea. Like how did we arrive at habits and challenges?
Right. So I think you kind of touched on it in that little blurb just then, where we spoke about wanting to impact as many people as possible. And although it is great to be able to work with people who can do macronutrients and follow a slightly more regimented sort of plan, I honestly don't get that much fulfillment from that. Because why? Because there is an art to it, And you can definitely create quite a bit of change. But the people who need the change the most are the people that don't need that stuff. The people that are missing out on fundamental principles that are so imperative to living a healthy life. And people think they need that. But what they need is so much less. And we can simplify it for them and make it, I don't know. I think like people look at nutrition and lifestyle and they just think it's so complicated. So then they end up doing nothing, or they try all these things that don't work for them. And then they give up and feel like they've tried everything. But it's like, you haven't tried everything, because I'm not here to try and take your money. I'm not here trying to sell you a fad, try and give you a quick fix. Nothing. Like, I am just going to provide you with tools. I'm going to give you the problem solving skills to be able to get there. And when you're ready, you'll be able to do it if you're able to, like, you know, if you want to, kind of thing. Whereas I think a lot of the other things are like, here is a GPS guide and just follow the GPS and you'll be fine. And then they take away the GPS and that person's left with nothing. And that is not what I stand for. Like, I am in a position where I'm teaching people that I know have kids. Like, that to me, I'm like, the next generation, how can this person come to me and know so little? What are they telling their kids? And if I can tell them the basic things, they can pass that on to their kids. Like, for me, so I'm getting really passionate right now.
And their kids, and the ripple effect continues.
Exactly. It's the ripple effect of just small changes that makes the biggest impact. And it's those moments, those light bulb epiphanies where I have people like, you're actually changing my life. That is why I've chosen to do what I'm doing. It is a slower process. It's not as instant in terms of gratification, but practicing that delayed gratification and practicing something that is going to set people up for a lifetime, I am so willing to be that person that breaks away from the mold and doesn't just do what everyone else is doing, because I know at the end of the day, if I just keep doing this and making this impact, eventually people are going to catch on and want to do the same thing.
Yeah, I love it.
I got really...
That was awesome. But, you know, I think another thing to add into that is personal trainers, strength coaches and gyms, like, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Super accessible.
Yeah.
There's not that many nutritionists in the world.
Oh.
Like, there isn't. compared to when you look at the amount of nutritionists compared to personal trainers, it's definitely not as accessible. Yeah. I think now, in the last few years, especially with like nutrition coaches going online and being virtual and remote, it's a lot more accessible now.
Absolutely.
But I also think just a mindset in general population is that nutritionists are for people who are very, very serious. They have very like serious, maybe performance related or based goals. Yeah. Or you're the other end of the spectrum and you're a mess. Yeah. And you need help. Yeah. Dietary intervention. Maybe you've got chronic disease of some sort. Maybe you're morbidly obese. But the middle ground between the two, I think most people don't think that a nutritionist is someone they could be working with. But when you actually look and you think about where we spend most of our energy in our lives, you know, we're eating pretty much all day. Yeah. We're training once a day. Yeah. 1 to 3 times a week at the most for most people. You know, we kind of got it a bit skewed. And so what I love about what you're doing now is that you're making the fundamentals of nutrition and lifestyle accessible to the world. Yeah. Which I think there isn't. Because the only other way it's accessible is via mainstream media, books, and that is just super confusing because everyone's selling quick fixes. Everyone's selling this diet is better than that. Yeah. Carnivore, paleo, you know, low fat, high fat. It is really, really, really confusing. I even find myself sometimes getting pulled away from, you know, the basic principles, which I know are the basic principles for a reason, because of how much noise there is out there. And then suddenly, like, there's a research paper that says that this is actually now proven to be, and then, you know, a year goes by and it's not. Yeah. So, sorry, just wanted to...
No, that's okay. I totally agree with that. I think that is what makes it so confusing for people. And that's the problem is a lot of those things work. They do. And that's what people draw on. But there are only a handful of people that it works for. And it might not be for that person. So I think a lot of the time people are trying to look to other people as examples of what they should do instead of just creating more self-awareness, which is obviously a lot of what we do at the Process Program and with training, is if you can become more self-aware and learn the things that do and don't work for you and how you can manipulate things marginally in a way that supports your goal, that is way better than trying to jump ship, change everything completely, go off the rails, go back to square one and keep doing the same thing. So yeah, I guess the same as what we've done with the training, if I think about it. I know a lot of the language when we were kind of discussing who our program was for at the time, you had spoken about our program is for the person that is the burnt out athlete, the person who feels like they've tried everything and this hasn't worked for them. That is what I'm doing. This program is for people who feel like they've tried everything. I promise you, you haven't. Maybe we just need a different approach.
Yeah, love it. Feel like you were going to say something else.
I just had a question.
Yes, sir.
Coming from the social media perspective,
Yeah.
you see a lot of like nutrition plans, a
Yeah.
lot of quick selling. The one I keep thinking about is like the Marvel diet.
Yeah.
Like the actors who like have 6 months before they're on set,
Look
they
at
get
me.
absolutely ripped.
Yeah.
And they have like, oh, this amazing LA coach says I can eat whatever I want. I want pasta, I can eat it.
Yeah.
So my question is actually, is it more to do with your mental standing with your relationship with the food, or actually the food that's going into your body? It seems like there's an argument to be made that if you feel positive by having that pizza or dish of pasta,
got you.
and then it gives you the energy to go and do more exercise or be happier, that actually that has a larger impact rather than if I just said, right, I'm going to be eating broccoli and chicken for a month.
Absolutely.
What would you say is
I like that. I like the question.
That is a great question. I think, okay, if I was to put it like basic principles, energy in versus energy out is always going to be at the base of that. So that's how much we're consuming. If we're eating more, we're going to gain weight. If we're eating the same, we're going to maintain our weight. If we're eating less, then we are going to lose weight, right? So that's the basic principle that nearly every single eating methodology out there hinges on. What you're speaking of is, and maybe you can jump in and kind of help me out here, is that being in a place of restriction generally for a lot of people leads to maladaptive coping mechanisms, and that for a lot of people is food. So there's a saying of saying like wherever your thought goes, your body follows, or something similar. So it's kind of like when you can't have something, you just want that thing, right? So I would say it's more a case of creating a balanced mindset that enables people to have a healthier relationship with food in general, that allows them to move on from those moments. A lot of what I teach is to purposefully indulge sometimes, like tune in, savor your food, really enjoy it. Like you're meant to have those things. It shouldn't be about not having the things that you enjoy. I know we've actually spoken about that quite a lot.
That was what I was going to lead into.
Yeah.
The gentleman over here on the opposite side of the table with you is a non-sweet, non-sugar dietary man. So she's obviously saying the complete opposite to what you believe in.
Yeah.
So where's your standing on that, Ed?
Yeah. So my stance is actually exactly the same as Tammy, I think. So I'll start by saying like why I don't actually eat like processed foods in general is because I kind of go at it more from like a gut health perspective.
Sure.
Is that when I eat refined food, like refined sugars in particular, but processed foods as well, number one, my gut just never feels great. Like it feels heavy. I can usually, my stools the next day aren't great as well, and I've done a lot of research about, just how indicative the digestive system is of health in general. And I've just kind of gotten to a point where I guess kind of going back to Paleolithic days of thinking about, what should human bodies be putting in them. And I just want to eat whole foods, natural foods as much as I possibly can. I just feel better about it. And so it's not, it's not, for me, the reason I don't avoid it is because I think it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
And I only give you shit out because you'll come in and say, I don't want to be eating this. I don't want to be eating it. And then I'll see you eating it and I'll just give you a little nudge to be like, oh, okay, I'm just making you aware.
But isn't the argument still that if I feel happier by having, me and Tammy both shared before this podcast, we both had.
We shared our own individual cookies.
Exactly. That now I feel happier that I've got that bit of sugar boost to get me through the rest of the day. And I know that you could have 1,000 arguments to say that isn't healthy. You're relying on that sort of boost to go forward. But
yeah. So what I would say there is that's why these conversations are important, right? Because we have never had the conversation to actually say how that food makes you feel. It was just you had come in and said, I don't want to be eating that food. And so I made an assumption because we never actually spoke about it. It's kind of turned into a bit of a gag thing now more than anything else. But, I had made the assumption that, okay, Al has done some reflecting here. He thinks that this food this food doesn't make him feel good, and he knows he shouldn't be eating it. And so therefore maybe the thing he's lacking in his life is just a bit of self-discipline.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, very applicable for a lot of people. And so, and this is why it's wrong for me to, if I was actually being serious, it would be wrong for me to just come up to Al and say, you shouldn't be eating that food, because I actually don't understand. You know, we haven't had a conversation for me to understand things like relationship with the food, why you're having it, etc., etc. I've just taken the immediate stance to say he's just ill-disciplined. Yeah. Which is what a lot of social media influencers doing these days. Is shaming you for being ill-disciplined. But at the end of the day, you know, we've seen, even within this team here, you know, we've had people work one-on-one with nutritionists and eat quote-unquote foods that they need to support their performance or body composition goals, and they have been deeply unhappy. And how that's manifested on the way they look is that they have gained weight, they haven't gained muscle, they actually moved further and further away from the goals they were pursuing, and they went to more of a self-regulated, like an instinctive, that's not the word, intuitive approach to eating what would be deemed as like highly refined sugars, highly processed foods, and them having the bodies of their dreams. And I think, kind of going back to your question before I'm gonna let you take over in a sec, is I do think that happiness in general plays such a huge role in performance, recovery, and, you know, in this conversation, like body composition. Like you could do the perfect thing on paper relative to what you need and what you want, but if you're just not happy doing it, you know, and I think about that as like the toll that essentially like stress has on you. Yeah. If like every single time you look down at your body, you look in the mirror, you're not happy with what you're seeing, think about the stress response that you're creating in your body every single time that happens. There's a huge cortisol release. There's a dump that comes from that. Blood sugar management is thrown completely out of whack. So biologically, there's a lot of bad things that are happening in your body every time you're doing that. Yeah. So yeah, I'll hand over to you.
No, absolutely. I agree with a lot of what both you were saying. I think to jump in on what you were just saying there specifically is that sleep and stress have two of the most, or the biggest impact on our hormones related to whether we're hungry or full. What you were speaking about specifically, and I guess the happiness point of that is, if we think about what happiness is, it's an elated feeling, it's feeling good, but it's not stressed, right? So if we have a bad relationship with food where we feel shame and we feel guilt, or we moralize foods, or we, associate, because I've eaten a bad food, I'm a bad person, that really takes its toll on your body for sure. Number one, that could obviously lead to feeling guilty, feeling bad. And if your go-to then is emotional eating, then you head into a state of mindless eating where we overconsume. And then that would not be indicative to the results that you're looking for. But if you have someone who has a slightly better relationship, or they're working on it, but they can be mindful in their approach, where they're intentionally allowing themselves to have things, and they're choosing to do it in a way that's not against their goals, it's still supportive because you can make it work, then I think that that's completely fine as well. I don't think you can have whatever you want. And I think that anything in gross overconsumption is bad for you, whether it's good food, bad food, whatever, like bad food, right? And if I was coaching people, the only things that I would really put as good and bad is how things respond in your body. If I had someone with a kidney problem, like I am not going to be giving them a super high protein diet. Like it just doesn't make sense. If I have someone that comes to me with a peanut allergy, I'm not going to be like, you should be eating all the peanut butter in the world. Like that is unhealthy for them. But for any other person with normal metrics, like it's totally fine to have those things.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of jump in and just share like why I decided to actually cut out processed food. Yeah. So it was actually, I just reflected on this the other day. It was almost a year to this day that I basically said, right, I'm going to stop eating processed foods. And the reason I did was quarterfinals last year. I've talked about this quite a lot of times in podcasts, and people take the piss at me all the time, like how messed up I was after quarterfinals.
Yeah, the year deload.
Yeah, I basically was honestly like couldn't do anything for like 2 months. It's pathetic. And what in that period, basically from January through to March, April time, which is basically when the quarterfinals finished. Yeah, I was eating like sugary cereals for breakfast. I was having protein shakes post workout. I was having another bowl of some form of cereal, and I was eating like Cocoa Pops and all the good shit. And I was hitting a couple of those a day. Weekends, I would, just because in my eyes, I was thinking, I'm training pretty hard right now. I need the sugars. I need something that's going to be digested fast, high GI foods. Totally makes sense. throughout the whole process, like my guts were not good. So, you know, I had irregular stools. I had poor consistency of my stools as well. And that lasted the 2 months post the competition. Obviously, a lot of other stresses involved, and it's not just the nutrition that made me feel that way, right? I hadn't prepared physically for it. I had a lot of work on, a little bit stressed because of probably pandemic. And then you combine all those things together, just a lot of things that weren't very good for me. And the intensity of training as well. So I just decided to basically run a little experiment. And that was it. I didn't know if cutting processed food was actually going to make a difference at all. And if I cut processed food and I still had the shits, then I'd probably be like, okay, it's clearly not this isn't the factor that's affecting me. Maybe I can keep some of this in me. But I cut it out. I actually also removed protein shakes. So I went for basically whole foods. I've been on like the whole food train for about a year now. And like my amount of inflammation and the amount of niggles I've had in the last 12 months have been, last year was already good, but I probably reduced that by like 75%. Had so few little injuries. My stool consistency has been honestly almost perfect for a whole year now. And I mean, that's in the midst of a competitive season as well. Like I didn't waver at all. My sleep quality's increased. I'm really happy with like my body composition. And so just like all those things combined, with probably a lot of other things I can't think of right now, has just brought me to this point now through experimentation where I'm like, number one, I don't crave it. So when I see Subway cookies on the table, before I would have had like a salivating mouth and been like, don't have one because you don't need it. Now it doesn't get me going at all. It's like wine gums don't interest me at all. Like sweets, and I think it might just be because I've just removed them. You know, I think a lot of times when you remove something for long enough, it can be anything. It can be like a bad person. It can be like a job. It can be something that triggers you. You know, you remove those things from your life and you kind of start to redefine you in many ways. And so when I just remove those things from my life, I look at those things and right now I'm like, I actually don't crave that at all. Like at all. Like not at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm probably like the opposite to Ed. You know, he is someone who moved away from those sorts of things. I purposefully have them every day. Like it's something every single night, pretty much without fail. I'll have chocolate. Like I love chocolate and I want to have it, and I save it for the end of the day because I'm like, this is good. But I don't eat it in a way that's like crazy. I just have my one chocolate and I'm happy with that. And I think that that's really important for me. And I think when people see the way that I eat and what I do and like how I travel and all I'm doing is focusing everything around my food, it's because I have the education and the tools and the knowledge behind it. I'm eating mindfully. I'm eating slowly. I'm making sure that I'm not eating till feeling overstuffed. I take my time. I create conversation with my friends. I'm using different utensils. Like it's all the stuff that I try and teach people where it's like, we don't have to weigh and measure everything. You can actually learn to do this by yourself. It's crazy.
I think that was the biggest shock was when I first started here, kind of figuring out people and knowing that Tammy was in this profession, and then meeting at her before coming to work. I was in McDonald's having a bit of a cheeky McDonald's breakfast and seeing Tammy come in and be like, oh yeah, I'm here to have one as well. I'd be like, isn't that like rule number one that you can't have fast food? But of course, learning and speaking to you that actually it's not the end of the world to have that. You know, it's backed up with one, the happiness, but two, the work as well. So you can have those things. But to take in a different direction, actually to you, Ed, I sent you a video, I think 2 days ago.
I was going to bring this up actually.
Then I'll let you take over.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So.
And in you hop.
So Al sent me a video. So myself and Al, we send ideas back and forth quite a bit about, you know, content creation, and you know, Al's got some really like innovative, out of the box ideas about how to like create entertaining content, and you know, for us to speak to a wider market than the market we currently speak to, which is really just like serious fitness goers. So like that's why like during the Open we did a lot of stupid stuff with like predictions, and it was pretty good. And I'm totally on board. And I'm like to Al, like, mate, you just come up with the ideas. I'm down to try anything new. Yeah. So he sent one the other day of and it was like, what are your thoughts on this? Right. And it was a girl with a fitness influencer with a tub of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. I think it was Ben and Jerry's. I think it was something else. Okay, not Ben and Jerry's. I shouldn't shame. It was a tub of ice cream. And then basically the whole video was, what do you have to do to burn the calories of a tub of ice cream? Right. So it was like 3 hours of squats, 1 hour of burpees, like 5,000 sit-ups or something like that. So
I'm literally like sitting here shaking my head. Sorry.
I thought you'd feel the same, but I thought, you know, the concept is cool, right? It's like telling someone that, you know, if you the message, what it's really saying is that if you're going to have a tub of ice cream, this is what you have to do to do it. And the things that she was doing was so extreme, like no one's actually going to do 5,000 sit-ups or 3 hours of air squats. That was basically shaming the food, right?
Yeah.
You know, this is how much you're going to have to do to be able to burn the calories that you're going to eat from this ice cream. Basically, like, so don't have the ice cream is what the subliminal message that a lot of people would take from that.
Yeah, right.
So what I responded to Al was like, cool video, love the concept, but you know, this doesn't really align with how we talk about nutrition in the sense that this is kind of in an indirect way shaming ice cream.
Yeah.
Right. Saying that ice cream is a bad thing and that if you eat bad foods, you have to punish yourself with exercise. It's basic, and that's how a lot of the world thinks. So I'll hand it over to you now to because you said this is making your blood boil. So
before you start, I'm going to give you the stats from the
they are interesting stats. So what?
So we've got to burn 1 tub of ice cream, you need to have 20 hours of sleep. You need 4 hours of squatting, 2.5 hours of running, 3.5 hours cycling, and 9 hours of washing a car.
Okay.
And that's the video in its entirety. So she's just saying, this is what you need to burn. Now, the context was, like Ed said, I was interested in his opinion, and now having that back, I feel I can understand. However, from the perspective of somebody like me, I'd be like, okay then. So there's a...
How do I sleep for 20 hours?
I wish.
That's a good part of it. I don't mind. So what did you think? Like, so for someone who's like starting their fitness journey, you saw that video. What did you instantly think? Other than like the creative side of you thinking, how can we make a video of this?
I think about it as you're quantifying the guilty pleasures. The fact that if I was to set no to myself and say, okay, I want to have a full Cadbury's chocolate bar, and somebody could say, right, if you want to have that tomorrow, you do this amount of hours of this amount of exercise, I could sort of more justify it. Because now I know that, okay, well, as long as if I can balance the good with the bad, not going into the idea that it's shaming the food itself, but actually just giving me the better insight into what I can do to have the good and the bad.
What if there's a steak?
A steak's not bad though, is it?
See, that's
It's
okay.
calories.
So that's the thing, right? The thing is that in your head, whether this is probably pre-existing from somewhere before, or maybe for some people this video reinforces that now ice cream is bad and steak is good.
Yeah.
Even if the calories are exactly the same.
Yeah.
So this is kind of, so I'll let Tammy take over.
Okay, so for me, the reason I shook my head is because attaching your caloric expenditure to the amount that you're consuming develops disordered eating habits. That's what I don't want, because that's the people that I have to unbreak to like completely rewrite their script and be like, that's not how it works. We don't need to be like that. Like, you can be self-compassionate and empathetic, and you're allowed those things. They're not bad. Instead of having it in the quantities that they had it. I'm trying to think of how I would redo the video, and it wouldn't be as an exciting video. And I think that's probably, for the multimedia guy.
I think you could make it interesting, but whether someone's going to take it on board the same way,
yes,
that's the thing.
Yes. So the person has suggested that if you would like to consume this whole tub, this is what you have to do. I think that in the moment of having an entire tub, someone's going to feel terrible. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. If you eat that tub of ice cream, not the fact that you're feeling terrible for the fact that you had it, just like it probably isn't going to sit well. Like, it isn't going to feel good. Your body's not going to feel good. What I would try and teach a client or a person that I was working with to do is just, let's have a macro review on this. Over the month, we can eat this entire tub. Why don't we just have a bit a day? Like, is that something you would like? Would you like to have a little bit a day, or would you just want it once?
Just want it once.
You just want it once.
I think if you're looking at the extreme version of this, you're going to have people who are going to have half a tub in the evening. They're not going to be so self-controlled as, I'll have one scoop a day.
Yeah, no, I understand that completely.
I have Nutella at home that is just looking at me in a locked box.
But this is why, because you've restricted it so much. What if it was sitting next to a steak and you valued the steak and that ice cream the same? What if you could get to that point where it actually wasn't based on, I think that this is bad and that's why I'm not allowing myself to have it, and this is a treat, versus this is what I feel like right now. I'm going to have it. But actually, when I eat that, I feel better. So I'm probably going to have that more.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, also it comes into the big part of if I want something, depending on how easy it is to do it.
Yes.
A tub of ice cream requires no prep.
Yep.
A steak is me needing to get that cooked finely to my liking, or I go out and get somebody else to make it for me.
Yeah. Well, this is the perfect opportunity to jump in. Like, the foods that we're speaking about are known as hyperpalatable foods. They're foods that have literally been scientifically engineered to hit your pleasure spots, have a dopamine hit, to feel great. Like, it's meant to be that way. People often say to us, like, hey, I'm craving, I just have such a sweet tooth, I'm craving sugar. I'm like, are you actually craving like a spoonful of sugar? Because I don't think you are. If you're wanting something like pancakes and brownies and ice cream, it has some sort of fat, it has some sort of sugar, it has some sort of salt, and it's the magic combination of those three things that makes food so addictive. It's cheap, it's convenient, it's easy, it's fun, and it's very easy to eat fast, and that's why people overeat on it, and it gets the name that it gets.
So would you a bit of a tangent?
Yeah.
Like, it's I kind of view this as the same as the Diet Coke philosophy.
Right.
That I can go and have a big burger and fries, but I'm good because I decided to have a Diet Coke over the regular fat Coke.
Yeah. I think there's a fast food continuum, right? So if 2.0, if Alex is going to, let's just say he's going to McDonald's and he has a large Big Mac meal with a large Coke, and let's just consider, and a sundae. Step one, can Alex make it a medium meal? Already we have let's just say it was like 300 to 500 calories difference a day. If we times that by 7, how much is that? Like 3,500. So that's already 3,500 calories in a week that you've now changed. So yes, the concept of I've had a Diet Coke with this meal, if it's a progression from what you would normally do and taking it down, that's great. But I think that being like, I deserve this or I need this because of this, that's when it becomes different, because then people will overindulge and allow more than what they probably should be having relative to their specific goals.
Right. I mean, just to be very open and personal, I arrived back home. I was out of the country for a bit, and I got home and I thought, what am I going to eat? And literally the first thing that came to my mind was McDonald's.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, screw it. I'm going to have myself a chicken burger and have some wedges. And afterwards, I felt like shit. And I really, even though I love the food, and I was thinking to myself, like, I want 2 wedges. I want some nuggets with it. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to stick with just the wedges and the burger. I felt worse afterwards because I felt like I was cheating myself under not the regimen, but the idea that I want to improve myself, and that, like we've been speaking about, in my mind, I have restricted that from myself. Even though tomorrow I know I'm going to be in the gym, I'm going to work out, I'm going to sweat, I'm going to put the energy in, but I still feel like, I shouldn't have done that. I should have made something for myself or done something that...
So right now, you just have a bad relationship with food, simply put. And it's not a bad thing, because so many people are in exactly the same boat. And it's so hard because it's the language that gets portrayed in all media. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to break that. We're trying to move people away from moralizing foods and start to teach them to be a little bit more intuitive and to understand what makes them feel good and feel bad based on how their body responds to it, rather than it having a certain label.
Yeah, I want to just add on top of that, is that I think, I think some people can hear this whole conversation and think, oh, actually, then there's no such thing as bad food, which means I can eat whatever I want. No. And that's not what we're saying, right? Yeah. So I think a big part of all these challenges is educating people to make choices right for them.
Yep.
Which can mean sometimes like having an ice cream is not the end of the world if you're consciously thinking about maybe everything else that goes into your mouth and the rest of the day and the rest of the week, and understanding the pros and cons to that. What are the good and bad that comes from eating ice cream, like physiologically, to your body, to your mood, to your sleep, to how it affects your appetite for the rest of the day, to if you've got to work out in 2 hours, is that something that good you should be eating before? Is there a better choice for you? And I think the other part to that is that, like, you need to be disciplined, and that is when it comes to anything. If you're trying to create change, you're trying to break the habit of being yourself. And what I mean by that is, like, you're trying to break the habit of the owl from last year that has created all these habits subconsciously, which is like, what he likes to do. Like, There's probably been 10 other times where you come home from a trip and McDonald's has been your thing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like I remember when
even going to Macau last week, or the week before, sorry, and wake up in the morning and going, oh, I'm very tired. I was up all night editing. Now I literally need something inside me. Oh God,
Sorry,
what?
what?
That sounds a bit rude.
This is not the right podcast.
I need some energy, some food inside me, and the first thing that is there at the ferry port is McDonald's.
Yep.
So, okay, so I have that, and now I feel guilty.
Yeah.
But I've accepted that guilt because at least this is a bit of a bad thing, but I feel at least I've got something inside me instead of running on empty.
Which is honestly why sometimes, like, you know, with that bit of context now, maybe McDonald's wasn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, all right, you had a big day of work coming up. You had to be like mentally switched on. We're traveling to a different country, foreign environment. Like, we were asking a lot of you. If you hadn't have eaten anything because of the fear that McDonald's was going to be bad for you, you would have had zero energy.
Yep.
You would have been moody as hell. Like, and you wouldn't be able to do the job that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so actually, McDonald's was the right choice to make in this context.
Yeah.
But without void of the context,
Yeah.
then it's easy to see why it's a bad thing. But I was just going to say, just to finish off my tangent, is that, you know, whenever you're trying to change anything, it can be a mindset, it can be a nutritional habit, it can be just starting a new habit. Well, we did a whole episode, and that's like one of our most listened to podcasts recently. It's like it is going to take discipline, and you're going to need to sit sometimes and fight against your urge to want to do something, to have to do something else, and that's hard, and that is especially in those early phases of like habit formation or breaking an old habit. Yeah, so I just wanted to throw it in there.
Yeah, I like this all. So I've written all over a sheet. I like that what you're saying and what you're understanding now is there is a pattern. We are creatures of habit. Our brains operate on patterns, right? And a lot of the things that relate to our food is we have our trigger, we have our behavior, we have the reward, right? And that's kind of how the habit is formed. And the more rewarding it feels, the more inclined we are to repeat the habit. It can be from a lot of things. So our triggers can be specific times, places, settings, scenarios, people, experiences. So for you, when you travel and you're tired, like your go-to is boom.
I mean, it's food in general. I mean, even it doesn't matter if it's a McDonald's or a Subway. I'm going to feel guilty because I feel like I should be putting something that's more beneficial for my body. As Ed said, it's a long day. I need energy. I need to be on my A game for that day. There's no retakes. And even on the ferry, snicking everybody's ham and cheese sandwiches and putting them in my bag for the for the ride home. Yeah. But I still feel like, even though I do feel the guilt for that, I go, I needed that.
So can I just quickly jump in?
Yeah.
I was going to say, because I recognize a lot of the old me in you as well, for sure. I used to always on a family holiday to Macau. I'm going to Macca's for sure. That's like part of the routine. But then now knowing that there are 5 other restaurants there, all delivering fast food, which means like I'm going to order within 5 minutes. I'm going to have it in my hands. I can start eating it. But the nutritional quality of the 4 other restaurants might be higher. Yeah. There's going to be less processed foods in them. It's going to sit better in my gut. It's going to be less gluten. I know that fits better for me. And so I could have still satisfied my need to get food in for a big day. But because I'm now more educated and I've done a bit more research and I've sat and looked at the menus and had to think about what's on offer, I could make a more educated, accurate guess for what I need, and then probably not have the guilt that you felt. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, I like where Ed's going with this. So generally speaking, we can have like this dial, right? It's set from 1 all the way up to 10. 1 is like, what is the worst possible choice I can make right now? 10, what is the best possible choice that I can make right now? Related to your specific whatever you're trying to achieve, your goal. And it gives you the power in that moment to kind of sit yourself on that scale somewhere and choose somewhere that's relevant for then and feel confident that you've chosen what's good for you, in terms of, not to say it's the most nutritious meal you've ever had in your life, but it's like, I could have had this and that would have been a 1, but I'm choosing like a 4 or 5. And I am making the best with what I have right now. And that's fine. But I think on top of that, it's habitual. You know, it's something that continuously happens. And I think where people fall short is that they fail to prepare, not to do like food prep and all that sort of stuff. I'm not saying people need a food prep, but educating yourself on options where you can go to a 7-Eleven and be like, I know what I can grab to make up a balanced meal. All I know is I need a fat, I need a protein, I need a carb. Cool, go. You don't know that just yet because you haven't been on the journey. But if you did, you'd be like, I could be anywhere in the world, which I can. And I know no matter where I am, I'll be able to make something that's pretty good for myself.
So for our 7-Eleven customers, what is the go-to picking up on the shelf?
Depends which 7-Elevens
It
we're talking about.
depends,
Hong
yeah.
Kong 7-Eleven versus an American 7-Eleven.
Very
American
different.
7-Eleven is unbelievable.
Oh, really? I think Hong Kong is pretty good as well. I feel like Asia is the easiest place to make meals that are going to hit a lot of what we need.
I think the fact you've got a microwave in there,
Oh,
you can.
You know
ask
that
them
more than I know that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you use it, you'd be like, oh, I want to make this a bit warmer. The option is there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But back to it. So we're talking about Hong Kong 7-Eleven.
sure.
What is, if I want to wake up in the morning,
Yep.
I don't want to go to McDonald's, I'm just going to pick up something quick from 7-Eleven.
Yep.
What am I picking up?
Okay. I'm going to let you help me because I'm going to ask you, what is a protein you can think of that you would find in a 7-Eleven? I can help you.
To be honest, no idea.
You do. You know. Come on, you do.
What is a meat product that is...
Just some chicken, some beef, some pork. I mean,
Cool.
in what it is, in what packaging or what standard it
Yeah.
is, if it's going to have sauce on it, if it's going to be with
Sure.
something else.
Doesn't matter. Tell me, what's a protein you've seen in a 7-Eleven?
Chicken.
A chicken?
Sorry, chicken.
Cool. Perfect. So there's chicken. There's
Yep.
also, if there was not a chicken, because not every 7-Eleven has chicken,
Yep.
a jerky,
Yep.
yogurt, like all things
got
that
egg
have,
sandwiches.
eggs, protein in it. Then we need some sort of fat. Now, if you've grabbed something that's not a super lean protein, right? So if we have like a char siu or something, we already know that's got quite a bit of fat in it. We maybe don't need to grab additional fats, but if it's like a chicken breast, which they sell here in those packages that I'm very skeptical of, but I'm sure they're great, you might want to grab something to go with it. Is it a cheese stick or something? Is it like,
Bag of nuts.
a bag of nuts? It could be like the world's your oyster, really. And then you just want something that is a slow digesting carb. You could literally grab a granola bar and that could be your fats and your carbs and you could have your chicken. And yes, it's not the most appealing meal in the world, but it's ticking off, okay, I'm getting the things that are going to keep me satiated. And if you wanted to add a little bit more bonus to that, and they have, which I know they do, some sort of like cold cut vegetables or something with a bit of fiber in it, it's going to keep you full for longer and you'll at least make it through to your next meal.
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting to have that perspective of even 7-Eleven could be the better option.
Yeah.
Then I would have thought that warm and somewhat fresh would be better than having it cold in a fridge from 7-Eleven. Or even if you have, if you guys know, like in China, there's a huge amount of fresh but packaged bread. China love sweet
yeah.
bread.
Like milk buns and...
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But even it's just bread purely sold by itself in 7-Eleven. And I wonder, who's this market? Who is this people that are just buying white bread by itself and having that as a snack? And I understand it fills you up super quick, but obviously...
Does it though?
Well, okay. To an extent. If you get yourself a baguette and you just take it bit by bit and suddenly the baguette's gone.
Exactly, right?
You're going to feel hungry later. But again, I think if somebody who's working that sort of 996 or 007 job, and you just need something quick, and you don't even want to think about it. You just think, right, milk bread, sweet bread, or whatever else is being that's eye-canningly wanting to fill you up from 7-Eleven or any other small shop.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to have that perspective of, okay, you could actually still be healthy even if you go to 7-Eleven.
Well, even honestly, going to McDonald's isn't the end of the world. When you see me there, I'm not going there and getting like the world's biggest meals or anything. Like, I just get the things that I like. Like, I love McDonald's breakfast. I like their hotcakes. I like an English muffin. I like an egg. Like, super simple. I really like a hash brown. So I'm not doing that stuff all the time because obviously if I have a hash brown before training, personally, I feel sick. But I mean, even if you go to the lunch menu in Hong Kong, they have like chicken steak, like an actual chicken steak, which is wild. So if you're going to choose between having like a triple cheeseburger and a chicken steak, like we know that the progression there is already way different. So it's not to say that going to 7-Eleven is better than McDonald's or whatever. I think it's how do I equip myself with the tools to know that if I am in a 7-Eleven, if I am at McDonald's, KFC, if I'm in my local work area, people think like ordering out is a bad thing. It's convenient. It's not. It's just how can I preload in my like, you know, little toolbox in my head, or even it's on my phone, go to some of my favorite restaurants and pick out meals I know that I like, so that when I have that moment of I literally can't be fucked to deal with anything right now and I can't be bothered to think about it, I have it there ready. It's when people don't have those options that we wait till we're too hungry, and then when we're really hungry we choose the things that are a little bit more fun.
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
And I think it's easy to listen to you, Tammy, talk about it. And probably for someone who doesn't have the knowledge and education as you, to be quite overwhelmed and hear that and be like, how is it so easy for her and how is it so hard for me? And that's just because you are the result of years and years and years of research, deep research, and a lot of trial and experimentation. And I'm exactly the same. Like, I went through periods of life of, you know, like aggressive calorie restriction from Monday to Friday and a 2-day cheat weekend. Then I went to like cheating every single day.
Yeah.
And then I went to the whole idea of not using the word cheat anymore because I realized that was maybe creating bad habits.
Yeah.
And then going high calorie, then low calorie. Like, I've tried everything. And I've gone deep into the subject of nutrition that I can now be in a position that I'm in where, and I'm just trying to think, as you guys were speaking, I was trying to think about, because every day I have my food laid out for me. Like, you know, I've always got a stocked fridge at home. But again, it's only stocked because I've thought about it the day before or the week before. Like, I know what foods are going to be in there. And when I'm going to bed at night, I already know exactly what I'm having the next day for my 3 meals.
Right.
It's sorted. Like, it's always at the forefront of my mind because I know how important nutrition is for me. Just like I know how important sleep is for me. Just like I know how important exercise is for me. Those things, I'm never waking up in a day and not knowing what those things are going to be. And that's just like, it's because they're just priorities for me. Yeah. So I'm trying to think, okay, well, when are the times in my life where I don't have the regularity and consistency? So then I think immediately when I travel.
Traveling.
And when I travel, I actually look forward to the challenge of trying to structure my day, nutrition-wise, to have options that align with me. And so that means, like, if I get into a food court, if I'm in a shopping mall or something, or I'm working in a gym and that's the closest place, I'm not going to rush into the first thing I see. I'm actually going to shop around a little bit, you know, scout the floor, like look at the options, like, and not rush. Even if I'm starving, even if I'm hungry, if I've had to work a little bit longer than I wanted to, I'm going to take my time, and then I'm just going to sit and think and make it, you know, make an educated decision on what's going to be the best option for me. Same thing I always think about if I've got a layover in an airport. I'm gonna scout the whole airport. I'm gonna look at all the options. I'm gonna do some research online, and I'm gonna think, okay, what's going to be the best option based on what I need right now? And what I need right now might be something like, okay, I'm not gonna eat for 12 hours, so I need a calorie dense meal that's gonna time me over. Maybe that means a burger, or it's gonna be like, okay, I just got to get through the next 3 hours, and I'm gonna get to my destination. Then I can go to a restaurant and have a nice, proper home cooked meal. In which case, I just need something small to time me over. But I'm always thinking now, but I'm also thinking about the step ahead.
Right.
And that's always at the forefront of my mind. And so I enjoy the process now of like having that challenge.
Yeah.
But I know the younger me would have just seen like the Macca's or the Burger King straight away, being like, yeah, right, I'll do that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to hit that now because maybe I don't have a Burger King back in Hong Kong and I miss it.
Yeah. I think, if I bring it back to, I guess, the challenge as an example, within the first challenge, at least the 30-day healthy eating habits challenge, I literally don't speak about what people are eating. It's not about their food. It's generally just speaking about how they eat, how they relate to food, how we can foster a healthy relationship with food. In all honesty, I feel like people will achieve body composition results, but that is not my initial goal. It's how can I set you guys up with helpful skills that when you do get into situations, normal life, no offense, Ed, no one's walking around being like, how can I plan the best meal and taking like 2 hours to walk around a food court? Like, they're just going to want to go in. But if they already have the foundation of knowing, okay, I'm going to do the best with what I have. That's fine. Okay. I'm going to choose something that I want to eat, but I'm not going to eat until I'm overstuffed. I'm going to stop when I'm feeling about, I feel satiated. I'm not feeling overly stuffed. I'm going to eat slowly. I'm going to practice mindful eating. I'm going to tune into what I'm doing. I'm not going to be distracted on my phone and doing things because, like Al said, if you get a baguette and you're distracted and you're doing other things, the baguette's gone. And then you're like, well, I haven't even hit anywhere near where I want to be. If they have the skill of knowing how to differentiate hunger between appetite, they can then make that decision. Okay, I'm actually not hungry, but I want this and I'm going to have it. Or I'm checking in. I want this. How am I going to feel after I have it? Is it worth it? Fuck yeah, I'm on holiday. Cool, go for it. If not, then maybe it's time to move on to another option. I'm going to go in with, ideally, different things that I know I need, where we just went through it with Al. It's like, okay, I know that I need to have some sort of protein, some sort of fat, some sort of carb, and I want to have some sort of fiber, right? This is assuming someone's eating a balanced sort of intake. As long as I know that I'm hitting that, cool. I might only be sitting at a 2 or a 3 on my scale of up to 10, but that's what I have right now, and that's okay. It doesn't mean every day is going to be like this, right? Yep. So, yeah, I don't know. I can get how it's really confusing, and I can get how people get super overwhelmed, but simplicity in this process is what we need. And once people can realize just how easy it can be to create change without even changing what you're actually eating is what I try to do.
Yeah.
But I think that comes again back to the video that I sent Ed, which is it's somebody who's taking the thing that you like and quantifying it in the simplest way possible.
Right.
And I think three things. First of all, the internet will agree with me when I say that McDonald's doesn't count if it's in an airport. Yeah.
Amen.
Second of all, I think one of the biggest takeaways of my sort of maturity in the way I look at food was actually from Ed saying that I will only have 3 meals a day, but those would be 3 bloody big meals.
Yeah.
And I thought that's a much better way to view food rather than what other people have told me, which is, keep yourself lightly hungry, keep having little bits here and there. I thought, I'd rather just have 3 meals a day.
Absolutely.
And go balls to the walls and just completely fill myself and be like, if I get hungry, no. You gotta
don't know if you quite picked up on what Ed was really going with. I feel like you've interpreted it a different way.
That's why I'm still learning.
Yeah.
But
so I just want to pause you there because I think that's just a great example that, the world might tell you, like split it into 5 small meals a day. Yeah. Like, you give yourself a drip feed of energy and give yourself a drip feed of protein throughout a day. That's more beneficial. Smaller digestible meals will mean that your digestive system can actually assimilate the foods and so it totally makes sense on paper. For my lifestyle, that just doesn't work, because I have mornings and night times, which I'm always at home and I can sit and eat at a table. And then I pretty much got one other time in the day where I can sit down for 45 minutes and not have anything else to do. The rest of my day is stacked doing things.
Yeah.
So 5 meals a day for me doesn't work. And so if I tried to go with 5 meals, what would probably end up happening would be that I would be scoffing food in 3-minute windows of breaks between work, which means then I'm not being mindful of my eating. I'm not chewing. And my body's not digesting. I'm not assimilating the food. So actually I've gone for the option, which is maybe a little bit worse on paper because I've got more to digest and maybe I could have some blood sugar issues after and maybe feel a bit heavy. But that's actually a better option than what mainstream media tells me, which is to have 5 small ones because it just works better for my life.
Yeah.
Now, if I was on holiday, I didn't have anything to do all day, and I was exploring a city, maybe I might go for 5 meals because I've got plenty of time to eat more food and I don't have anything to worry about and there's no schedule affecting my eating time. So
yeah, I love what you said there. I think what I wanted to kind of jump in on is, as a nutritionist or as a coach, I have so many people that come to me and they just want this magic answer. They're like, what is the best thing? Like, what is the thing that is going to get me the best result? What is the method? And I literally just have to say, it's the one that you can stick to. It's the one you can be most consistent with. If that means you like intermittent fasting as a practice and you think it's going to be a lifestyle, go for it. If that means keto slots into your life perfectly and it's exactly the way you want to eat and you love it and you don't want to change it because you love high fats and you love protein and it works for you, great. If that means you're only eating, if you're eating 7 meals across a day because that's just what makes you feel good, go for it. There is no one size fits all approach. And that is where the confusion comes from. We are all so different. like little snowflakes, and we all have this different little method that's going to work for us. So while we can look to others for examples, we should be looking so much more at ourselves and seeing what we can manipulate in ourselves to create positive change, because that's where I think true change and positive change starts to happen.
And I think if we know why, you know, so rather than just like, is intermittent fisting?
I just like to be fisted intermittently.
You kicked all this off by saying you needed something inside of you. Is intermittent fasting good or bad? That's a question that everyone comes forward with, right?
Oh, so much.
Like, is high fat good or bad? Rather than good or bad, it's like, well, just understand the benefits and the pros and the cons of everything, and then you just make the educated guess or the decision that fits best for you. And it's the same as training. It's why training and exercise is so damn confusing as well, because everyone's talking about HIIT is better than strength training, which is better than cardio, which is like 2 sessions a day versus one. It's all a comparison as to which is better and which one's worse, versus like digging to or seeking to understand why this might be an appropriate choice and why it might not be. That's the layer of education we don't go to. And that's a mistake that coaches in the industry make, because we are just being a sage on the stage and not guiding the side. We're telling people what to do. We're not educating people on how to do it and why to do it. That's what's making us all so damn lost. So, sorry. Yeah,
so I think, you know, if I was to jump in, sorry, Al, I know that you're like patiently waiting on the other side.
He had 3 and he only got 1 out.
You're coming. It's your turn soon. No,
we've all done our piece now.
Okay. A lot of what we do here is, I know we pride ourselves on our education. It's what we want to do. It's what we want to allow people and invite them into seeing, because it's useless if it's only in my brain. Like, I want everyone to know what I know. That would be incredible, because then we can kind of have this ripple that makes waves eventually. But what Ed was just saying there is that at the premise of everything, the principles remain the same. It doesn't matter what eating methodology you're doing. It doesn't really matter what strength training methodology you're doing. If we're doing strength, you're doing some sort of pull, some sort of push, some sort of hinge, some sort of squatting pattern or knee bending pattern, and maybe there's some sort of heavy carries. We know that. So whether you're doing it in a HIIT format or this format or whatever format, if you're enjoying that thing, like my mom is 63, I think. Sorry, Penny, if I got that wrong, and it's older than you are. You look great. But she's only just like kind of found her footing with her fitness lifestyle, where she's never been confident in herself to step into a gym in fear of judgment of others, right? And it's because she had anorexia growing up. She had a really bad, body image, and she was always embarrassed. And she's found Reformer Pilates and loves it. And one of the first things she said to me was like, oh, but you probably don't think it's like that great, or like whatever, like throw in, I don't know, a way to kind of diss what she's doing. And I was like, no, I want to understand what it is. I've never done it. I can't have a judgment on it. I've heard it's incredible. And I went along and I was like, this is awesome. Like, she's doing resistance training at an age where she needs it. She's moving her body through patterns that are incredible for her. She has a friend who's on keto, right? And this friend is like super on keto, like has weigh-ins and check-ins and DEXA scans and like has all the resources to make that happen. And she doesn't, and she's okay with that. But she's like, you know what? I've listened to like things over the years and I started to pick it up, and I'm not doing keto as a diet, but she's like, I've taken that I need a lot of protein. When I eat a lot of protein, I feel good, and like I'm recovering well from my training and I'm getting stronger. So it's like, if you can stick to basic principles, that's all we need you to do. And I think that people get lost in the methods instead of just bringing it back to the principles.
I think, like, from everything that you've said to me today,
yes,
all the other conversations that we've had before, and also from guidance from Ed and the rest of the team. Actually, one sidetrack, Ed, would you prefer to have 3 meals a day if you had the time? 3 meals or 5 meals?
Why is it 5?
He said.
I was just gonna say, I think because I was saying that's what's so often recommended.
Okay. So if you could have total control, like if you didn't have your time constraints, would you want to be spacing that food out more, or do you like that it's simple 3 meals that are easy digestible in that moment?
I mean, I love the way that I eat. I think it works very well for my lifestyle. So it's hard to know, because you also remember that because I've had this rhythm for so long, my body has now become accustomed to this rhythm. It now knows at what time of the day it's going to get what. And it's all of my rhythms inside, like when my hormones are released, when my energy is high, when my energy is low, when my sleep hormones are released, when cortisol, my energy, that's all been that's all in sync now because I've been so repetitive for so long. So if I suddenly went to 5 meals a day, my body would be totally out of whack. It would actually probably feel terrible.
Yeah.
And now I'd probably think straight away that this is bad for me. But if I stuck with 5 meals a day, probably after a few weeks, I'd be probably feeling just as good, maybe even better, because maybe I'm digesting my food a little bit more appropriately now. Maybe I'm getting this drip feed of energy and protein throughout my day. So I understand the science behind why that might be more beneficial. So I'd be definitely interested to try it for sure. I mean, I have lived periods of my life where I did do it, but my schedule just wasn't set up. So it's hard. Yeah, hard to say really.
Yeah. I like what he had said just then. Like, our body creates rhythm. That's naturally just what it's doing. It's just this circulatory process that's just going rhythm with everything. And that's something I guess people have to train themselves out of as well. If you're someone who has a snack continuously at a certain time, that's probably because you've built that habit. So like, can we take that out and see what happens? Like, can we replace it with something? I think, you know, with the whole distribution segment that he was talking about just then, it's a much more advanced way to look at nutrition, where now the nutrient timing is becoming more important, and that's only important for a specific demographic of people. Like 99% of people, I would say, that are listening to this don't even need to worry about that. Like, we just need to make sure that you're eating enough. And yeah, the composition does matter because you're going to have like different physiological responses that happen from that. But like, whether you're eating 3 or 5 meals, how does that slot into your life? Is it pretty seamless? Then cool, you're doing the right thing.
It's just to make a big old circle back to social media.
Yeah.
With my Instagram, it's now consistently full of gym stuff. I'm getting so
You're
tired
welcome.
of it. No, it's too much of it. Too many attractive people on my IG now. But that's part of the job. But why don't I see more nutrition stuff if it's so important to the process? How do we make eating healthy sexy? Or how do we make it that for somebody like me who was recommended that video of ice cream and kind of took away, there's something positive in knowing there's sort of a cheat code to, well, if I have this, then I've got to do this to counteract it. How do we get to the point where we can make that sexy?
Ed's got it.
Well, I want to share one thought on that, and I think the issue here is actually partly Instagram itself, right? Because Instagram is designed to capture you for very short moments. It's not really designed for like long form media, which means that the stuff that sells on Instagram, the stuff that gets the likes, the stuff that gets the shares, is like, it's the thought-provoking, either extremes of, you know, ways of thinking. Like, you know, if you're someone like me who sits in the middle with everything, my answer for everything is it depends.
It depends.
You know, that could work and it couldn't work. Like, that's not what I'm not built for Instagram, because that's not a sexy opinion that's you know, pulling left field or right field people into my account because they want that. So I think, you know, if you want to gain education through Instagram, it's always going to be tough because most content isn't diving deep enough into the why. It's all based on like, this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, do this, don't do that. That's really how Instagram, like, I would say that if watching media is the way that you like to learn, I'd say, you know, YouTube, where there's like longer format media, might be a better place to go. When you're going to find an influencer or someone who aligns with what you're looking for and go deeper, take a deeper dive into the stuff and the principles. I mean, podcast is going to probably take that to another, you know, I did a lot of my nutritional learning in my early days through like Lane Norton's podcast, and Nova 3 Labs, which used to be called Dynamic Nutrition. They had a really, really good nutrition podcast that was like no nonsense. It was like matter of fact, backed by science. It wasn't left or right field. It was just like go deep into a subject. And I learned so much from those 2 podcasts alone. So I think that's one massive issue with Instagram, is that taking the educational route down the middle and saying it depends, everything could potentially work, is not sexy and doesn't sell. And number 2, short form information, short form formats is not how you're going to learn deeply. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm not going to learn anything from a Twitter post.
Oh,
the same way I'm not going to learn. I mean, okay, it depends. But
generally speaking,
genuinely, it's to the extent where the question I was trying to ask is that even if we said YouTube or podcast, I'm still not going to say it's sexy. I'm still not going to be driven by the fact that if someone says, if I plan, I do this, blah, 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 that actually I could even come down on my work because the food that's going in is going to be so, again, speaking as somebody who's new to the journey, who is seeing this whole new world of social media and also getting a new dump load of information, the common thing is food is, if not more, is just as important as working out.
Oh, way more.
Way more. So, okay, there you go then. So if I know that, and I know that I don't need to be going absolutely, ham in the gym.
Yeah.
I should actually be looking at how what I'm eating. Why is it then people are still so like, nah, I'll go and do triple workout today, and I'll eat shit when I get home.
So I think this is the tough position that we're in as a company, or at least me in the role that I've taken on, is because I had a moment where I was like, I could be really successful if I caved in and did what everyone else is doing. But I am not.
Like, you could be really successful. Yeah. Like, I mean that. Like, good looking, you're jacked, you got tattoos, you got dreads. You could stand there on a stage and just preach whatever the hell you wanted and take that hard stance, and you would have people flooding to you. Like, you are literally built for it.
Thanks. I thought you
in a
were
very
having
way.
a really sarcastic response to the way that I said that. I was like, oh no, that was genuine.
Agree? Like,
no, totally. I mean,
yeah.
You've got the following, you've got the personality, and even more that is that you are genuine when you say it.
Yeah.
A lot of content creators, I'm not going to say names, but you'll see a lot of people in the body bettering circle. Oh, fuck, that's terrible.
Yeah, we know.
If in that space, that they just don't seem genuine about it, and it's like it's one rule for you, another rule for me.
Yeah.
And it seems like even if you were told me, Alex, I think you should have avocado toast today, I'd be like, well, hang on. I've heard other people, say that it's poison, but I would trust it coming from you.
You should lick the ground.
I think we're getting a bit off topic.
No, so I think where I was going with that is that I had an opportunity where I had to make the choice to either create something that could be probably incredibly successful but not aligned with my values, or I could choose to make something that aligned with my values and what we preach here. And that is what we've gone with. So do I know that it's not as sexy or as appealing? Yes. Do I know that people are going to have to go through probably a lot of trial and error and going through quick fixes and following these influences? Yeah, I do know that. But at the end of the day, I know that when they do come to what I'm doing and what we are providing, they're going to have a complete lifestyle change. And that, to me, makes it so worth it, because I'm not an influencer. I'm a coach. I don't monetize anything on my entire Instagram, which a lot of my finance friends are like, what are you doing? What do you mean you don't do that? I am not on there for that. I'm there to educate people. I'm there to be authentic. I'm there to share my life and my stumbles and my falls along the way. I'm there to completely admit when I've fucked things up or when I'm wrong. Like, I am not there to force my opinion down anyone's throat. That's not who I am as a person. If someone wants something or if someone wants to learn, that's when they're going to make that change.
Yeah, it's why the transformation world, what I mean by that is like 30-day shred challenges or like 3-month challenges. Here's your before picture, here's your after picture. That stuff sells so well and can be I can understand why that is a desirable business model to have.
Yeah.
Because you're hooking people in at a high price point, creating amazing results, but you're not teaching them how to actually do it themselves, so that they have to keep on coming back to you.
Well, it's a business model.
Yeah, we're actually doing what a lot of people would probably say is not a smart business model, which is like, we're giving people autonomy, so they only need us once, hopefully, and they never need us again.
Yeah.
But, when we link it back to the mission of trying to like impact lives, like, I just think, well, if you're afraid to take that stance with business because you think there's not enough people in the world for you, well, then you need to firstly re-educate yourself on how many people in the world, because there's enough for us forever to be doing that. But ethically and morally, it just aligns so much more. Like, I can tell you with my hand on my heart that the influencers and the people in the industry who are selling and creating the challenges are not doing them themselves. Like, they are not putting themselves through 30-day shreds, and you don't see them transforming every 3 months by going from fat to lean, Like, and so if they can put them, and this is not a dig, because I also understand that, you've also got to run a good business. We got to get money on the table and a roof over our head. I totally understand all of that.
That's the thing, like challenges are important. Sometimes people have really short-term
and
goals. Short-term goals are completely fine. If you're willing to understand, like, okay, maybe afterwards, like I'm going to have to reap, like, you know, the repercussions, go through what is
face the consequences.
Face the consequences of that.
I mean, I ran nutritional challenges. We used to run 3-month fat loss competitions, and we'd have like really cool rewards. We made so much money from it. We put a high price point. Everyone wanted to do it because everyone's like, like I've got summer coming up. We'd time it after Christmas, and we did it for probably 2 years until I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore, because I was seeing what people were doing was they were doing the fat loss challenge, losing a ton of weight through really unhealthy, unsustainable protocols. So basically like starving themselves and doubling their training volumes. So the aftermath of that, they'd look great after 3 months. Then they were a mess, like crazy inflammation, all sorts of hormonal issues, low energy, couldn't show up to work, like lost all their sex drives, personal relationships came crashing down. And the reason they were okay with it because they knew there'd be a challenge next year where they just lose it all again. Yeah. And it's like, and I now also know the research behind what multiple weight loss phases do to you and how that can really mess you up long term. But also it was like, what are we doing here? We are messing, and we're actually messing people up. And we're not even, none of what they're doing is aligning with health. And we're an organization that primarily focuses on training. These people can't even train. Like they're so messed up. They're so calorie depleted. And the aftermath of the challenge is that hormonally they're just a shit show that like they're basically crippled and burnt out all year, but they're just living for those challenges. And so like, we said goodbye to a massive paycheck that we were getting every time we run those challenges and said, now we've got to find a more sustainable way to do this because this is not right. Like it was not right seeing these people just be zombies walking through my gym and then burning out and then leaving because they were broken, but coming back for the next challenge.
I think it just sits right knowing that as a company, we are just doing what we believe in, right? What brings us fulfillment, what we know is the right path for people who want to create long-term change. And I say that specifically that way because challenges are incredible. They forge community. They are an incredible thing for people to challenge themselves and try something new and, put their body to a test and achieve incredible results. But at the same time, generally speaking, they're not a long-term solution and they don't help people in the long run because I'm pretty sure the stats say that like 90% or up to 95% of people, at least within the 2 years, put all the weight back on and then most putting more on than when they started. So I don't like that stat. I want to be a part of the pioneers in the movement that changes that. And if that's not immediately, that's okay. But it'd be so fucking cool 10 years down the track to be like, look, other people are doing the shit that we were doing 10 years ago. We were part of the first people that believed that this was the right approach. That is awesome. So that's where I stand. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm just going back to the coach who has the resistance to want to give people autonomy.
Yeah.
Who want to handhold the whole way and not give them the tools to navigate life by themselves. What we do.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And I understand because the young coach in me like felt that as well. I can't be losing clients. Then I got to find someone new. But if you can set someone free, if you can like release the shackles so they no longer need you anymore, you're just creating the opportunity to now impact another life. And that's the way I see it now. It's like, if I don't give people autonomy, I'm serving one person forever. If I give people autonomy, I can serve the world.
Yeah.
And
I couldn't agree more. If you were to ask me what is my goal as a coach, it's okay. I have someone at A. We're starting at A. We need to get to B. From A nearly to B, I'm holding their hand the entire way. By the time we get to B, I'm starting to like let it go every now and then, like just testing the waters. When we get to B, I let go completely. They want me still there because I'm obviously like a comforter for them. But if I can show them like, you have everything, what would you, like you start to question, like, what would you do if this happened? What is this scenario? I'm still here if you need me. Like I'm an accountability buddy, but you know everything. That's when we know we've done our job. And like he said, that mission comes back to wanting to impact as many people as we can. If I'm just stuck with that one person, like that would mean that I've done not a good job, right? You do have clingy people and sometimes they're really nice, but a lot of people, if you've done your job well as a coach, or if I have done my job of what I want as a coach, that's where I end up with them.
Nice.
Nothing else to say.
Thanks for your questions.
Yeah,
Al.
great questions. It's nice
you
to
very
have
much.
like a general pop person on the other side.
Yeah, someone starting their journey.
Yeah.
I think that's always why I like having you here, is that you have a perspective that perhaps we lose sight of when we're surrounded by.
I find things really easy. I just plan ahead and then walk around the food court for 3 hours.
Exactly.
Do you not just do that?
I've got 2 hours to kill just choosing food.
Well, thank you to both of you.
Thanks for
Tam,
having me.
thank you for sharing and talking about something that I know you're super passionate
love it.
about.
You're welcome.
Al, thank you for your storytelling as well.
Yeah.
For sharing your
Welcome.
challenges and your great questions.
We also have one more question to ask.
Oh, we do have one more question to ask.
Oh, is this a new thing?
This is, thank you, Al. So we have a new tradition
Yeah.
on the podcast. It was a tradition 3 episodes ago. Then I forgot to do it the last 2 episodes. So we're going to restart the tradition.
Okay.
And because you were the guest, this is the first time you were a guest on the show since we started the tradition. I'm just going to
Okay.
tell you what the tradition is now. You
Sure.
ready?
Yes.
Okay. And what I should have actually done, sorry, just another tangent, is I should have told you this question before.
That's okay.
So you could have actually thought about it.
That's all right.
It's like, ow, mate, one
on,
job.
guys.
One step at a time.
One
I
job.
reminded you now.
Ed was too busy
All right.
walking around the food court for 2 hours.
Tammy,
Yes.
describe your perfect day.
Easy. I'm on an island. I wake up. I walk along the beach because it's sunrise. Then I go and eat some food. I train. I eat more food. I get out on the water, whether it's surfing, a boat, anything. Just put me on the water. I come back. I eat again. Then I
She's
go
a
and
5 meal a day girl.
maybe more. Then I go on an adventure, whether it's a scooter or a hike or something. No real agenda of where I'm going. Just go. Find little nooks and crannies of places and just check out the views. Sit. Enjoy them. Find another thing to eat because I'll be hungry at that stage. Then it's probably nearly sunset time. So I would ride my scooter to wherever the sun is setting on that island and find something to do. If there's a little boatman, I'll get him to take me out on a boat. If there's not a boatman and I just need to sit on the beach and watch it, I'll do that. If it's a mountain, I'll do that. And after the sunset, I'm going to have my dinner and then I'm going to have my chocolate and then I'm going to go to bed.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Quite similar to my day, actually.
Yeah.
Yours has
similar.
work in it though. I remember.
Mine
you-
did have work in it, yeah. Mine was sunrises and sunsets. Mine had beaches. Mine had water. And something I noticed in your day was that you were alone,
Yeah.
apart from the boatman.
Ooh.
The boatman.
I like being alone.
Yeah,
I
nice.
value it a lot. I actually traveled. Sorry. No, I'm not going to do that right now. But
Okay.
anyway.
And to wrap the podcast up, so just real quick, Tammy,
Yes.
where can people find out more about these challenges? How can they get involved?
Absolutely. So we are currently running one of the challenges. So in order to be involved, you'll have to wait until the next time. Suspense. But you can definitely read more about it on my Instagram profile. In the next month or so, we are going to have a nutrition profile set up for the processed nutrition, and all of our information will be there as well. Our next challenge, or I guess educational course, is going to be a body composition 101. So it's me simplifying the science behind things and helping you to understand how you can calculate things for yourselves and start to make mini adjustments to achieve your goals.
Awesome.
Yep.
Team, thank you very much for your time. Have yourselves a lovely day.
Bye.
Bye.